Ready, center.
Of UTSA, the Roadrunners begin their season September 2nd at Houston. Coach, we'll open up for an opening statement, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you all for being here. Really excited to be moving to the AAC. We're on our 13th season of football at UTSA, and it's been a blur, and we're really excited to be here. We have a ton of respect for this league. Commissioner Vesco just came and spent a few days with us in San Antonio, and his vision for this league and how he's fought for it is really amazing. And the skins on the wall that this league has is impressive. Also, I think what Willie did last year. Just Coach Fritz has just been an inspiration to so many of us for so many years in our business. He's done it right wherever he's ever been, and he's won wherever he's been. And what they did, beating USC and winning this league is really impressive. And, I'm a Texas high school football coach, and those guys are still my heroes. They all came through my school many years recruiting my kids, and I've gotten close to a lot of them. And I probably know more college football coaches than anybody in the business just because they were trying to get my kids, for 15 seasons. And now I'm competing against them. So I know I might sound like a fanboy talking about Willie, but I have that much respect for him and so many guys in our league. Our league's deep now. It's deep with a lot of great football teams and a lot of great football coaches. But we're excited to be in it. And obviously when you got Frank Harris and Rashad Wisdom on your team and some of our players returning that we do, we have a lot of great players. So we know we're going to have a good football team as well. We could have been 14-0 last year, but we also could have been 4-10. The year before we could have been 13-1. We also could have been 3-11. So we're very understanding of how close we've won all of our ball games. So we have a lot of respect for the football we're fixing to be playing. I'll be glad to take your questions.
Hey, Coach. Mitch Lucas from thefootballbeat.com, also from the Kilgore News Herald. I know
Beast Texas, baby. Beast Texas.
Sounds familiar. I'll talk a little bit, if you would, about Frank. My daughter just finished up at University of Texas, and she called me before your game against Texas, and she had tickets to go see it, and she said, "Tell me about Frank Harris." My daughter is a football nut, and she said, "Tell me about Frank." Well, I'm asking you that same thing. Tell me about Frank. Just talk a little bit about Frank and what he brings to the table, if you would. And good to see you again. And
Thank you.
Nice job at all your years at Gilmer. I'm a fan.
Appreciate that very much. Much respect for the Bulldogs, and they gave us heck many times in Kilgore, Texas. Frank's unique. That's where I was gifted. That's the quarterback I got when I got to San Antonio. And I think his story is what makes him so unique. I don't know if anybody really knows all the surgeries the kid's been through. He's had 5 knee surgeries. He's had 2 shoulder surgeries. He really appreciates the game of football. When he takes the practice field, every single practice, he takes a knee and he prays. He goes through practices his tail off. He's the last one to leave. He takes a knee and he prays. He's really grateful to play the game. His smile is authentic. It's real. He's raised by an amazing father, an amazing mother, and I'm the luckiest coach in the world. He's magic. As long as Zero's back there behind the center, we got a chance. It doesn't matter how much time's left in the ball game, and this is not just some coach talk up here. This is like factual. Like you've got 3 years of video if you want to go back and fact check some of this coach talk that comes on behind this podium sometimes up here.
Frank Bonner, Daily Memphian. Looking at what you guys were able to do the last 2 years, and then you're coming on a new conference, and media voted you to finish top 2 in the conference. What does that say about what your program has been able to do and the belief that others have in your ability to have success?
I was watching back there a while ago, just watching these guys talk, and I remember, when I saw Biff, bang the podium because he was picked last, it reminded me of my first year here, Why am I saying that to answer your question? Because it's a heck of a lot better being picked last and not having anybody on the preseason all-conference team, which is what it was when I got here, right? So I know it doesn't really matter. It's just fun. It's great for you guys. It's great for fans. I understand that part of it, and it's fun to talk about. But I repeat, it's a whole lot better than like Biff banging up here a while ago. And I get it. I know that feeling. You know, you get hired, you're a new coach, and we were picked last and didn't have anybody on the preseason all-conference team. So I'd rather be there than up here with Biff banging on this podium.
One of the teams you keep on this schedule, EvanDudleyAO.com, is UAB, a great rivalry y'all have had the last few years coming down to the wire. They have a new coach, Trent Dilfer, who is coming from the high school ranks, much like you from many years in East Texas. Hopefully you know Joe Drennan. I covered him for about a year at Mineola. But, you know, just what are your thoughts on making that jump from high school to college into the success that someone could have like that?
Coach Drennan's good people, too. So, well, that's the only way Trent and I have anything in common, because I can promise you his bank account, being where he came from, the NFL, looks way different than my high school bank account when I was a high school football coach. And maybe our hairdo, that might be a similarity. A lot of respect for Trent. UAB's a fantastic job. You know, everybody talks about we're familiar with the teams that came with us. Well, unfortunately, our 3 losses in the last 3 years, they're coming with us too. And UAB is one of those losses. We were very fortunate to beat them on a tip pass at the very end of the game to win a conference championship our very first time around. And last year, I think we beat them in double overtime. So that's been a real struggle for us, and that's a great program. What Bill Clark did there will be is one of the greatest stories of all time. Now, Bill was a high school coach as well, and much respect for Bill and UAB, and I know Trent will keep that thing going at UAB.
JJ Perez, Inside Runner Sports. Jeff, what's the biggest challenge of navigating this jump to the American for your program?
I think it's just some of the obvious. You know, we've only been playing football going on 13 years, and we're taking on programs that have been playing for over 100. You know, our facilities have really upgraded. I mean, us getting in that new race building was huge. You know, we got lights on our practice field here recently. That's huge. We need to get the field covered. That's the next object on our list, right? Just making sure we're competitive. It's so hard in college football to keep momentum. It's hard to get it going at all, but it's sure as heck hard to keep it going. And now that you're going to this new league, I think it's very important that we continue to push, that we just keep pressing. And I always want to come across as grateful. I do, because I don't want my athletic director, Dr. Compost, mad at me. But at the same time, it's important our boosters know, we need them. We're going to need checks, and we're going to need big checks to stay competitive, because let's be honest, NIL is real, and our collectives have done a fantastic job. 210 City Fans, 210inspired.org, Runners Rising, but we got to keep pushing to stay competitive.
Coach Billy Embody with On3. You mentioned the NIL. How much of your time now is spent doing that fundraising, or even talking with state officials and representatives to make sure it's headed in the right direction as best y'all can?
It's funny you bring that up, Billy. I can remember Dr. Compost when she first hired me, and she sat me down with our race committee and our race board, and I remember telling them, if you'll just get me in this $40 to $45 million building, I'll never ask for anything else, and we'll win all the games you want to win. And now, 2 years later, NIL. And now you're back in front of people going, if you'll just get me this, we're going to win a lot of games. And, it's just what it is, Billy. It just hadn't stopped. I spend, I don't want to say most of my time, but I'm either recruiting players or recruiting boosters. And I recruit a lot. And luckily, I've had great health. I love my job. I love people. So I always hate the word recruiting. I wish it was replaced with the word relationships. It's just the way the Lord kind of made me. I just love people. So it's not a big deal for me to go have lunch with boosters. And my general manager just texted me and said, don't forget, you're having lunch tomorrow with Phil Harburger. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go do that, right? So it's just it is what it is. But I'm very grateful to be doing it, Billy. Yes, sir.
Coach, James Steckley, T. White, son. I know the playoff expansion is a year away, but when that happens, essentially the American, every other conference that used to be considered G5 is essentially just the same as every conference to P5, because you just have to be one of the top, you have to be a champion conference, top 6, and you're in the playoff. Have you been able to use that at all in recruiting and now when you're pursuing players? Because now the opportunity is the same here as it is in the Big Ten, the SEC, and all the other conferences that are quote-unquote P5.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a factual statement now, right? You can literally, and I believe I'm not saying it's easy, don't get me wrong, but our path to that playoff might be a lot more realistic than a lot of guys that call themselves P5s. Because let's be honest, you can look at a lot of those leagues, and there's no chance for most of those guys to get in there. There's a real chance we can get in that thing. There's a real chance the people in our conference can get in there. And it's something we're telling all of our recruits, and it's true. And we're excited about that possibility. Obviously, none of that happens if you don't take care of business. And in 39 days, we've got a great football team in Houston. We play Dana Holgerson, so we're not going to let that get too, much on our mind. But it is something we are telling our recruits for sure.
Hey, Jeff, Stephen Whitaker, birdsup.com. You talked about Frank earlier, but just what has it meant to have him and Rashad for your entire tenure here at UTSA?
Again, you mentioned Rashad. Unbelievable parents again. Just the kids are made by the right stuff. You can have fun with them. We laugh, we cut up with each other. But when you tell them it's time to play, they know it's serious. And very grateful for their leadership. There's no way the 2-0 Triangle Toughness, our brand, works without those kids. And understand, just so you guys that are not familiar with our program, we vote for those single-digit numbers. Rashad and Frank both got unanimous picks, like every coach, every player. So that's why they wear the 0. And that's a big deal. I've never in my life seen it. Just usually some silly freshman might not know who they are, and they might not vote. But it's like 150 votes, they each had 150. And that'll probably never happen again in the history of our program.
One more, Coach.
Jeff, it's Greg Lucas, San Antonio Express News. You mentioned Frank and Rashad. We were just talking to them, and last year at Conference USA's media day, they wore their rings and they were kind of showing off a little bit. This year, it seems like a little bit of a different approach. Do you like kind of the shift in mentality with those guys on the team?
It was new for us. We were just thrilled that we won one, and those kids did it again. Undefeated this time, I might add. We had the one loss, the year before last, and they did it undefeated. And I just think they have a sense of belonging, but also a sense of humility. We understand how fortunate we've been. We've won some miraculous ball games through the last few years, and I think those kids just get it. They're older. They understand it. And we also have a lot of respect for the league we're moving into. And we know it's our first 4 games are as tough as anybody's in the country, and then we've got a very tough conference schedule as well. So we've got a huge task in front of us.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank y'all. God bless. Birds up.